I get asked all the time, what is the single most transformative thing you can do for brows without any dye, without any microblading, without permanent changes? And my answer is always the same: lamination. Specifically, lamination done right, for the right client, with the right technique. Today, I want to walk you through exactly what that looks like. A full brow lift procedure on a client whose hairs naturally grow downward, which is one of the most common things I see in my practice. The very first thing I do with any new client is cleanse. It sounds so simple, but it is genuinely one of the most important steps in the whole procedure. The reason is straightforward. Any oils, any residue, any leftover styling product on the brow hairs will create a barrier between your lamination compound and the hair cuticle. And if that barrier is there, the chemistry simply does not work the way it should. So before anything else, a thorough cleanse with a dedicated brow shampoo, worked through the hairs with a spoolie, then removed completely. While I'm cleansing, I'm also doing my visual analysis, and this is where I see exactly what we're working with today. The hairs are naturally oriented downward, which means the client wakes up every morning with brows that just lie flat against the skin. There is no natural lift, no framing of the eye. The goal of today's procedure is to fundamentally change the direction those hairs grow in and hold them in a lifted position for 4 to 6 weeks. Now, before the lamination compounds go anywhere near this client, I need to do some shaping. And this is something I cannot stress enough. Lamination makes the brows look fuller, more defined, more structured, but it does not correct the underlying shape. So if there are stray hairs that need removing, they come out now. I use wax for this because it gives the cleanest result. Small, precise applications with a wooden spatula, working in little zones. Above the arch, along the lower border, any stray growth at the inner corner. This is careful, methodical work. You do not rush wax. At around this point, before I move into the lamination chemistry itself, I apply Smart Step, a preparation product that goes directly onto the dry brow hairs after all the wax residue is cleaned away. Think of it as a softening primer. It gently begins to open the hair cuticle and get the structure ready to receive the active compounds that come next. In my experience, using Smart Step consistently improves the longevity of the result. The shape holds better, the hairs respond more evenly. Once the brows are shaped, prepped, and fully clean, we move into the core of the procedure. Step 1 is the Activator, the compound that actually breaks down the disulfide bonds inside the hair shaft, allowing the hair to be repositioned. I apply this with a flat synthetic brush, working from root to tip, making sure every single hair is coated. And here is something I see beginners skip all the time. You cannot just brush it on and call it done. You need to physically go through the brow and ensure each individual hair is separated and saturated. Clumped hairs mean uneven results. After the activator is applied and I've manually distributed it with my fingers to really work it in, we apply the foil. This is the occlusion step. The foil creates a warm, slightly humid microenvironment over the brow that accelerates the chemical reaction and helps the product penetrate more deeply into the hair structure. It sounds simple, but this step makes a real difference, especially for clients with dense or coarse hairs. We leave the foil on and let the chemistry work. This waiting time is honestly one of my favorite moments in the service. The client relaxes, the products do their job, and I get a few minutes to observe the brows under the foil, checking for any edges that need attention. You learn a lot about a client's hair just by watching how they respond to the activator. Fine hairs process faster. Thick, coarse hairs may need a little extra time. This is where experience matters, knowing when to check and when to wait. When I remove the foil, the first thing I do is test the hair's response. A cotton swab, gently pressed against the hairs. They should feel noticeably softer, more pliable, moving easily in the direction I push them. If they feel resistant, I know I need to add a small amount of product locally and give it a bit more time. Never rush this check. The quality of your result depends entirely on whether the hair structure has softened properly before you move to step 2. Once I'm satisfied that the reaction is complete and even, I remove the activator cleanly. This transition between step 1 and step 2 needs to be fairly prompt. You do not want the activator sitting on the hairs any longer than necessary, especially on a client with finer or more delicate hair structure. Now comes my favorite part, the neutralizer. This compound does something almost magical. It rebuilds the disulfide bonds inside the hair, but in a new position. The position you set it in while the neutralizer is working. So the technique here is everything. I apply the neutralizer with a flat brush, and then immediately, while it is wet and the bonds are still being reformed, I begin combing the hairs upward with a spoolie. Slow, deliberate strokes, lifting the hairs toward the upper edge of the brow. This is where the shape is actually being created. And if you watch closely, you can already see the transformation happening in real time. Hairs that were lying flat just an hour ago are now holding upward, staying in position without any product, without any gel, without anything. That is the chemistry working exactly as it should. The result is what we call a natural lift. The brows look fuller, they appear higher on the face, and most importantly, they open up the entire eye area. The client's eyes look more awake, more defined, more expressive. This is part 1 of the full lamination service, so we have more steps to come. But what I want you to take away from today is this. Brow lamination is not just a cosmetic shortcut. When it is done with proper technique, proper product selection, and proper timing, it is a genuinely transformative service. It meets the client exactly where their natural anatomy is, and it works with it, not against it. And that, honestly, is what I love most about this work.